And actually, things are a lot more simple than that. The more common sense we have, though, and what does common sense mean? It means not just using your vision, but using your touch, your taste, your smell, and your all of your five senses, and even your sixth sense, which is basically the accumulation of all of them together. When you have them all together, that's common sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
And how often do we do that? We just think with the brain, and the brain can't feel. Like the cornerstone technique doesn't depend on the brain. You hold and you feel. Now a child.
Aloha and welcome to another show, guys. Today, we're embarking on a profound exploration into nutrition, wellness, and the hidden truths of health with our esteemed guest, Adam Bergstrom. A pioneer in holistic living and nutrition, Adam Bergstrom brings decades of expertise and insight to our discussion. As a prolific author and renowned expert, he has illuminated the intricate connections between diet, health, and longevity, challenging the conventional wisdom and revealing deeper truths. In this enlightening conversation, we delve into a wide range of topics, from the role of salt and sugar in our diet to the wisdom of common sense in gardening. And thank you, all of my amazing listeners, for your unwavering support and dedication to this community. We've hit a remarkable milestone of 5,400 followers, and I want to express my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you. As we dive into today's episode, I want to encourage you to follow, subscribe, and leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast platform. Your engagement fuels our growth, attracts incredible guests, and ensures these vital conversations reach more people. Remember, you can also support this show directly by donating through Buy Me a Coffee. And you can also support the show by heading to my website, sensiblehippie.com, and checking out the books and tools I recommend. And of course, Patreon is the best way to get early access if I'm not having trouble uploading an episode. Ad-free content, and Patreon is always free. There is no charge for Patreon. Donation is always appreciated. All right, that's enough from me, guys. Let's dive into this mind-expanding conversation with Adam Bergstrom. Enjoy the show.
Maybe good to go.
I think so,
Maybe.
Mr. Boogie Woogie. It
Okay.
says Mr. Boogie Woogie. Do you want that to say that?
That's okay. They used to call me Professor Boogie Woogie, the ace of
Did they
space
really?
that did bring her 6'1" and full of fun, the voodoo hoochie coochie man on the coast here, tight rack, etc. I had all this rap down one time.
That's funny. That's too funny. So are you
I wrote a
still, you wrote a what? I'm sorry. Go ahead. You tell
oh,
me.
I just said I wrote a slang dictionary back in the day. I've been obsessed with slang for a long time.
Slime?
Slang,
Oh,
lots of slang.
slang.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why you wrote that dictionary, right?
Yep, I sent away for something called a Beatnik lexicon. Oh, when was it? God, 1961 or something like that. And copied a few words down, and it led to more. So now I don't go to movies or watch any show without a pencil to write down slang and
Oh,
top terms and things. So been
oh,
a
that's
habit
pretty
for a
cool.
long time.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Are you still in the same place that you were?
Still are. We're in process of moving, finding a place, that kind of thing. We'll see what happens here. Things are looking good.
Okay. So you haven't tied down to one place yet. You haven't figured which one to go to or where?
Well, we might, but we'll see
Okay.
before I spout
Yeah,
off about it. We might not be going there,
right.
and we've got some other plans too. We've got some big possibilities that could happen, but they're speculation. And
Yeah.
we could have some really good things happening. Also, we're going to start a think tank,
Ooh,
which no
what's
one has
that?
a health food think tank, like the democratic institutions and all these other places that they have, the Hudson River Institute, all that. But we're going to
Uh-huh.
start one for health and convivial therapy. And convivial meaning it's easy access for simple people. The Amish can do it. We don't need technology. All you need is your hands and common sense.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome. And when will that start?
Well, it's really started, but it's
Oh.
phantom right now. We would like financing because if we get financing, we can really change things. Things are made like Rube Goldberg machines. The more complicated you can get it, and it's really simple. Like health is really simple. It doesn't boil down to genetics and all those things they want to make it. The tech bros want to make it as complicated as possible. So you have experts. It's like cars. When I was going to high school, I could work on them with a wrench. Now I'm going
Yeah.
to interfere with some computer chip and knock it out. I could change my oil. I could change my wheels. I could change simple things. Now I wouldn't even dare to try. They don't even give you a capable jack. And see, when you have things that you can do yourself, that's convivial. And they don't make it convivial. They want to make it where an expert, you have to see somebody or get something from a foreign land or a foreign place or far away. They don't want you to live locally off the grid in other ways than just electricity and information and health and whatever. They want you to consult an expert. And most health and other environmental things are common sense. They're not critical thinking, they're just common sense.
That is true. And I think even I heard someone talking about the medical terms. It's Latin, but it's basically they make it sound so intelligent, but it's really when you break it down, it's something so simple. It's not, I can't even think of what a word, arthritis, you know, something like that. It's inflammation of your bones, but it sounds so genius.
Even arthritis, stiff joints,
Left
they
joint,
don't tell
yeah,
you the real problem. And then they give
yeah,
it somebody's syndrome, like
right,
Asperger's syndrome. And then they have a Latin name for that. And then they have
yeah,
other names and you get lost. And it just means you're losing your mind. You're losing some brain cells.
yeah.
And that's
That
very
is
simple,
true.
by the way. Most of that is caused by omega 3 fatty acids, serotonin, some things like that, nitric oxide. And all you have to do is take sugar and you can get some of that back. Like
Oh,
Jay, what's his name from the Today Show? His wife has got dementia now, and he gave
oh,
her a bunch of sugar. She could recover some of her mind. Brain, actually. The mind is fine. It's the brain that's the transmission point between the mind and the environment.
right. I think our brains, they need sugar, don't they?
Definitely, definitely. Fat burns in a fire of sugar, they say, and that's true. They want to make it like you want to be keto and all of that, but actually, sugar is the healer. Actually you can't absorb minerals without sugar. So if you're taking minerals without sugar, they're just going in the toilet.
Mm.
Or in the wrong places where just because we put something in our mouths does not mean it's going to go to the right place. People think I put magnesium in my mouth, it's going to go to my liver or wherever I want it to go. How do you know that? They just speculate on that, and often it does not go to the right place. It goes to the wrong place because of the time they're eating it, because of the way they're eating it, etc. There's a
Wow.
lot of et ceteras.
You're right. That's true. Is there a best place or time to eat sugar?
It depends on the growth zone of the sugar. Like if you have palm sugar or you have date sugar, morning. If you have cane sugar, midday. If you have beet sugar, nighttime. It depends on the zone. Like, is it a tree? Is it a vine? Or is it a root, basically? And that determines it. Now, because all beet sugar is non-GM, is GMO, we just eat cane sugar, and it's not too bad choice because we eat totally refined sugar. It's just CHO. Just like when you buy vitamin C, you just want vitamin C. You don't want pollutants or other nutrients in it that you don't know about. So we just get the plain sugar, CHO. That's all that's in it. Everything, including the glyphosate, is filtered out of refined sugar. So it will have to do in our civilization as it is.
Is there one sugar substance better than another? Like, how about honey? Is that better than sugar?
Honey's good. Again, it's determined by growth zone. Tupelo sugar is a good sugar because it comes from the tupelo tree, and it's mostly fructose. And fructose has got a bad name, but actually, you cannot procreate without fructose, or it would be very difficult. And also, the liver's primary fuel is fructose, not glucose.
Wow. So what's the
And
difference between, sorry, fructose and glucose?
Well, glucose is actually the type of sugar that we usually run on, and they give you that in the hospital. But long term use of glucose can actually be counterproductive. But sucrose divides into glucose and fructose and works out better. So you give a person sucrose, just plain cane sugar or beet sugar or whatever, in the hospital, you can save their lives often because it works on shock. It can prevent heart attacks. It can prevent cancer. It can prevent a lot of things. And of course, they tell you sugar causes cancer and feeds on it. But actually, cancer eats anything we eat because it's an isoparasite, meaning it's an evil twin. It's us, only us going on strike or become a rebel. It's like a union where they don't you won't give them any work, so they go into constructing a construction company of their own inside your body.
Interesting. What about dark chocolate?
Dark chocolate is actually good. Yeah, it's a good chocolate, and that's morning. It's a morning good.
Morning.
Yeah.
Oh,
And you get sugar in it and you get other nutrients in it too that are very helpful for the brain. Mm.
yeah. But it also has caffeine in it. Is caffeine good for you?
Yes, it is. It's an anti cancer ingredient. In fact, it's the major anti cancer ingredient in tea, like even Lipton tea or coffee. But they don't tell you that because it's too simple and they don't want you to think simple. See, they blame sugar when if you look at a candy bar and you see 40 and 40 chemicals that they have added to it, that explains why sugar before we ate plenty of it and didn't get obese, and now you eat sugar with all those new chemicals in it and you get obese.
Interesting. So if we just had sugar in tea, it would be healthier than obviously a candy bar without all that other ingredients.
Exactly. Yeah, now I put sugar in everything. I put it in my avocado, I put it in my coffee, I put it in my lunch, I put it in my potatoes, I put it in everything. Yeah, and I'm
So,
still alive.
right. How
Look at
much
Warren
sugar?
Buffett.
Right, he drank Coke, doesn't he? Or
Yeah,
he
but
used to.
even getting his type of sugar, which is high fructose corn syrup, keeps him alive. So you get, well, other people, look how many health gurus die because they avoid sugar and they do things. They live in their 60s, 70s, and some make it to their 80s and they don't make it past there. Now, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, so I'm lucky to be here at 84
Wow, I didn't know you're 84.
because I
That's
was
awesome.
a health guru, but I retired from that profession now. I'll give health
Yeah.
advice, but
So do you have you changed your ideas back? from, I don't know, maybe the 70s, 80s to now? Have you learned a lot?
Definitely, I believed in supplements and things like that, especially when I first got out of high school. I believed in it, but also food was there. When I met Donald Lay, Swami Nitty Gritty, he really convinced me of the value of food and that vitamins are more like energizers rather than nutrients. And so after that, I went pretty much on food. I still recommended certain supplements, and I still would, but as medicines, not as ongoing drugs. The secret of pharmaceuticals is you don't want to give people a drug that cures them, you want to maintain them. So a person with a kidney problem is a lifelong client. So they don't want cures, they look for maintenance. And really, cures are available. They're very easy to get. One goal of our think tank, for instance, is that two, let's see, how many? 2 million people die of cachexia or wasting syndrome every year. Well, doctors abandon people and maybe they give them a drug to help with the pain or something like that. And actually, by just giving them sugar and giving them foods they can eat, no matter how bad it seems to be for you, will keep them alive. One of the reasons we're able to move is because someone uh, at their death gave me basically $20,000 for keeping her alive an extra year. She was 85 pounds. She couldn't move. Her friends had to carry her to the bathroom, which she was running out of her body about 20 times a day, perpetually, could not move. And so I got a hold of her by email and convinced her to eat sugar and anything she could hold in her mouth. She went up to 103 pounds, was doing art again, was going to stores and everything, and just had a relapse at the end. But she got an extra year of not only extended life, but quality of life. And that's possible. And frankly, if we hadn't been going through our own crises here and I couldn't contact her on a regular daily basis, she might still be alive today, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
fortunately, excuse me. Uh,
Yeah.
And and again, we have 2 million people that their quality of life could be changed. Once they're out of the hands of the doctors, it would be easier. This is an example of a convivial therapy. You don't need anybody to do this. You just put it in your mouth yourself. You don't even need friends if you're mobile enough. And the other one is there are 300, up to 300,000 people at any time in a coma. Well, with cornerstone technique, you can actually find out if they're brain dead or not. And there's something that doctors can't do. They don't know if they can get to them. And also, we have ways to bring them back from the coma that they don't know about.
Right. Wow.
Mhm.
What is that cornerstone that you're talking about?
The cornerstone technique is you just simply turn the people's feet and determine if it's a man or woman trauma. And for instance, people will ask, "What would you do to find out if a person is conscious in a coma?"
Mm-hmm.
What questions would you ask? You wouldn't have
Mm-hmm.
to ask a question. You just turn the person's feet and you say, uh, "Well, it looks like they're going to unplug you soon, and that evil Uncle Fred of yours, he's going to take over your estate." Left foot jumps. Now you know two things: the person's conscious, and number two, he doesn't like Uncle Fred. He has a trauma with Uncle Fred.
Wow.
And it's so simple. It's just
Yeah.
like this. You do not need an instrument. You do not need a biofeedback machine or some kind of fancy internet guru thing. You're all set by your hands. Your 10 assistants will tell you the answer.
Wow. Have you ever done that to someone that's been in a coma?
I haven't had the opportunity, no, but I have had people feign sleep and things like that that have had like they one person when they pretended to go asleep I was working on this person's sister who had gone crazy, and I turned her feet and I said, for instance, this person is faking sleep. And then the left leg jumped, meaning me. And she suddenly woke up and said, I want to go home. I want to go home. Let me out of here. And I told the sister, you're the one that should get the treatment because she's taking advantage of you. It's a fake insanity. And a certain amount of
Hmm.
insanities are fake.
No, I see. I see. So we talked about how important sugar is. What about salt? Is that something important in our diet?
Very important. It can prevent a heart attack too, and it can bring a person out of shock. Yes, enough for taste. It varies between people. If it tastes too strong for you, then it's no good. If it tastes just right, it's the salt of life. Salary comes from it. We get it. It's a very important. And of course, they want to tell you that salt raises blood pressure.
Right.
In some cases it does, but most cases it doesn't. And you can usually
Wow.
tell. You take your blood pressure before and after eating salt. In most cases, it reduces blood pressure.
I
It's
heard of
the
that.
other way is just some people have that, and it really needs to be examined on a really thorough level. But there's no money in it. They want
Mm.
they want money in drugs for blood pressure, not simple salt because it's so easy to get.
Yeah. I know that when people get a heart attack or if they get an emergency situation where the ambulance come or you have to go to emergency room, a lot of times the doctors or the nurses will put that salt saline in your intravenously in your vein. And I believe that one bag of saline has like 9,000 grams, is it? It's a lot of salt. That saline solution is a lot of salt. I can't remember if it's milligrams or grams, but it's a lot of salt. Um, and if somebody's having a heart attack or something else, why would they do that, right? If it's
Yeah,
bad for you. But they're
exactly.
putting that in you.
You can revive a person at home by putting salt in their mouth too.
Huh.
It gets there,
Interesting.
definitely gets there quickly. And salt
Huh.
can prevent a heart attack. Yawning and
Mhm.
stretching, salt and sugar, and so many heart attacks would be prevented.
Hmm. That's interesting. Um, so for the I forget, I just lost my training of thought there. But what about magnesium? Is that really important too?
No.
No.
No, everybody's in, "Oh, magnesium, magnesium." You can get magnesium everywhere if you eat whole
Hmm.
foods. Even junk
Okay.
food, you can get magnesium, but
Hmm.
if you eat whole foods, and
Hmm.
particularly solar, morning, noon, and night, then you get all the magnesium you need and then some. And without sugar, you can't absorb that magnesium anyway, without salt and without
Oh.
other things, or direct it where you want it to go. Magnesium can result in tetany if you get too much, but if you eat whole foods, you're going to get plenty. There's no way. Now, people take magnesium baths; it doesn't absorb through the skin, but they think it does. And placebo effect. Oh, I feel so great after I took my magnesium bath. What are you talking about? But it's placebo. In fact, almost everything is placebo.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I
One
heard
of
about.
the One of the things I've discovered recently is I was into Satya Sai Baba. You've probably heard him, the guy with the afro and the orange robe, that guru that walked around.
No.
Well, at one time I didn't realize how many miracles he did, and I got into him because a girlfriend of mine was into it. So
Okay.
she took me to the meetings and everything, and I got interested. I read some of the books and found them really interesting. And then I met a man named Al Drucker, who, if you, I'll actually send you the video because Al Drucker, when I met him and he told his story of how his cancer was cured, it was the most remarkable story I'd ever heard. And that Sai Baba knew about it and actually gave him the the cancer to take on for Gregory Bateson, the famous anthropologist who at once time was married to Margaret Mead, and how preserved his life, and then how he was remarkably saved by it. So I wrote a book called Mesmerism and Miracles, which showed that we live in kind of a delusion that we don't have superpowers. And many people, when mesmerized, have superpowers. They can heal their cataracts, they can heal things. Well, Sai Baba has actually, one time there was a woman that had a gallbladder problem and had a cancer. And he said, "Don't go to the doctor, I'll take care of it." So for 30 years, she had no problem. She didn't go to the doctor. And finally, she got dengue fever, went to the doctor. And they examined. There was no trace of any cancer after 30 years. But then they said, "This woman, your wife, doesn't have a gallbladder. How could that be?" And she was diagnosed then with gallstones, is what they wanted to remove the gallbladder. Now, mysteriously, her gallbladder had disappeared without an operation or surgery, and there was no gallbladder, and she was living fine without a gallbladder. So those are the kind of things he did. And another thing he did was he could he could through his hands produce what's called babudi, which is sacred ash, and he could bring on pounds of it at a time. And people who had photographs of him, the babudi would appear in the frame. Now, I had a good friend who had AIDS, and she was at Muktananda's successor. I do not remember her name right now, in Fallbrook, New York. And she noticed, friends of mine who had seen Sai Baba had some babudi they got directly from him. We we mailed by post office some babudi to her, and she called me up and said, "What is that ash you sent me?" Because I found out that the Shirdi Sai Baba, the predecessor to the Satya Sai Baba, was in the line of Muktananda. And so I took a picture of Muktananda, put it under my pillow, and it was full of that gray ash. So, and more than a few people have said, "I know how he does that. He has a tube down his sleeve, and he just produces the ash like that." Well, on both of those people, Sai Baba walked up to him, rolled up his sleeve, and produced the ash all over into his hand. So, how do you explain these things? He also, there are so many miracles he created. If you see the Al Drucker videos, and have you heard of Isaac Tigert, who founded the Hard Rock Cafe and the House of Blues?
No.
Yeah. Anyway, he was a initiate too, and Sai Baba has saved his life from going over. He went over. He was drunk at one time when he was at Hard Rock Cafe, and he said his other saint besides Sai Baba was Jimi Hendrix. He went over the side in Malibu of a 60-foot cliff. The car was squished, but he walked out totally unhurt. He didn't even have a scratch on him, and he claimed
Wow.
that Sai Baba appeared in the car with him and protected him. So anyway, there's these stories that if you just heard a few of them, they would be hard to believe. But on the internet, there are hundreds of accounts of people who have similar amazing stories of how Sai Baba has basically is an avatar who comes to balance the karma of the age. I'm not a guru follower. I'm not going to go kissing gurus' feet and everything, but it's really very difficult to explain this person. If you look at his entire history, and that he could affect people enough that at Puja Party, where he lived, he would have as many as 2 million people attend his birthday party.
Wow.
Obviously, and people have tried to disprove him and couldn't. They claim they do, and then they go and for direct contact and can't. So anyway, it's pretty amazing stuff. And it validates, though, that we basically are living in the matrix. Just like we have these superpowers, we're told we don't have them, and we're acculturated by our culture and civilization that we're helpless individuals and can't do anything without them. And one of the things is that we can do. Now, having superpowers takes a very strong mind, like for mesmerism. With mind hacking, anybody can do it. In fact, a child, if you can tie your shoelaces, you can do mind hacking because it's easier. You just have to hold 2 feet, ask a question, and if the left foot jumps, it's a male trauma, and if the right foot jumps, it's a female trauma. And every disease, I've never found an exception to the rule yet, is caused by a who, not by a what. It's always associated with a who in some way. You clear up the who, and you can have miraculous cures. And yet,
That's incredible.
it is so simple, and medical science refuses to acknowledge it.
Well, yeah, there's no money in making that. They'd rather sell you these chemotherapy or whatever they want to call it, radiation, and I forget there's another one now with that they're trying to sell. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, chemotherapy is just a counter shock. You could get stung by bees and get cured of cancer.
I heard
You,
about that. Yeah.
and, and you could even get be in an automobile accident. Whatever the
Mm.
counter shock is what it is. So chemo, they make it out like it is a therapy specific, but it's a general therapy. That's why it works sometimes and doesn't work other times. My friend Judy Utley, I've told you about, had
Hmm.
spinal cancer, breast cancer, liver cancer, cancer every place. The doctor said, "How are you even living to walk in the office?" And she had a counter shock by having zinc burn a hole in her back about 8 inches across, and it cured her completely. For 9 years she lived. I'm not even sure what she finally died of because I was only in semi contact with her after 8 or 9 years. This
If
was
a
a
per
close.
I was going to say if a person is pretty healthy, how long can they live? What's that?
You, I think we can go beyond 120. I think a lot of people have. The Shiva Pura Baba apparently lived 129 to 139. Uh, Master Chen, who I've studied with, had a guru that lasted to 129. 130 in Chinese terms because they count from conception, not from birth. So, so yes, and Ray Peat has reported possibly cases as long as 140 and 150. Even on
Oh.
the internet, they have a possibility, but because they don't have a birth certificate, they
Hmm.
can't acknowledge it. But it's to their advantage to make us phase out as soon as possible. The hospital system is now basically a like in the movie with Charlton Heston and Edward G. Robinson, where you go to die. It's not a place to live anymore. It's a place to die.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of scary.
Yes, when people stay at home. In fact, the whole COVID thing, if people had just stayed at home, there would be a lot more survival rates.
Exactly. I think that respiratory thing didn't help them.
No, in fact, if they had carbon dioxide, it would have saved lives. They knew that back in the 1930s, they rediscovered carbon dioxide therapy, and it was an almost 100% cure for pneumonia.
Wow.
Why don't they use it now? Pneumonia is a common way of dying in the hospital. I have friends who have died from pneumonia, quite a few of them. And if they'd only known to use carbon dioxide, even bag breathing, if you can't do anything else, it would have saved their lives. Sugar would have too, because it provides carbon dioxide.
Does it?
Yeah, that's one of the things. Even if the giant pumpkins and everything the farmers grow,
Yeah.
they put sugar on it. That's how they do it. And if you have
Oh.
an orange tree that's in a foggy zone and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have enough sugar to complete from the photosynthesis from the sun, because the
Mm-hmm.
photosynthesis makes it sugar. You just pour sugar on it, and then it will make the fruit that it wouldn't have made because
Oh.
it didn't have enough sun. So when they go and darken the sun, we'll just put sugar on the food and sabotage all this nonsense they're going to do by dimming the sun.
Hmm. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I have a citrus tree, and it has never flowered or blossomed, so I don't think it can produce fruit yet. It's not a very big tree. Plus I have what do you call those butterflies that come and eat them? It's oh my gosh. It's the swallowtail, the Asian swallowtail. So
Ah,
they're the big green butterflies, and they love citrus trees, or at least the lime trees that I have. They'll eat it. So they eat all the leaves. So it's constantly going into shock, my tree. It's like it's bare, and then it'll come back, and it keeps going back and forth. But maybe if I put sugar, what is it?
you
Sugar
might
water?
you might try it. Just sugar water,
Yeah,
yeah, and just
sugar
spray it
water.
on.
Spray it. Spray it on the leaves.
Yep. There's a man called
Oh.
Gary Matsuoka. I'd suggest watching some of his videos. He does a weekly class on YouTube every week, and he knows most about it,
Huh.
especially soil. We think soil is for food to eat.
Yeah.
No, that's for the stuff on top. The dead stuff goes on top. The soil is pure sand or quartz. In fact, the space program grows all their food in space on spun glass because it's light.
Oh my. Oh, I didn't know that.
You know, that's the purpose of ignorance, that
Hmm.
they tell us all these things. So, I believed all that you needed compost and all that kind of
Hmm.
permaculture
Oh.
things
Hmm.
until the reason is fertilizer business. The fertilizer business is huge. Just think, if all you had to do is grow your food in sand and then let the leaves of the plant fall down on the soil, and that is enough for compost. No other
Huh.
compost is needed, the leaves. And if you have some extra leaves from the tree next door, put that there too. And that the
Interesting.
so called soil depletion is actually the plants do not like growing on their dead relative. That's why you rotate crops, not because of nutrition. Like, how would you like it if you went in the kitchen? You have a fish there, okay. You have beef there, okay. But what if your Uncle Phil was lying in the kitchen dead? You wouldn't like it. Plants are the same. So they sometimes, they call it replant syndrome. A tree may not regrow. Like, if you take an apple tree out and put another one in, it won't
Hmm.
grow unless you sterilize the soil or dig all the soil out and put new soil in, because it doesn't want to grow on its dead relative. Hmm.
That is interesting. Just recently I noticed, so on my roof, I guess the wind has been blowing a lot, and there's those sand particles. So and I know that's bad because it's like chemicals from the roof, but a lot of those sand blew over onto my pot that I had outside, and my plants was growing like crazy out there, but I didn't want to eat it because I'm like, it's from the roof, so I'm not gonna eat it. But I had ginger. My ginger was huge. It was amazingly big, and more than half of that soil in there was the sand that came from the roof that got blown down over maybe the month or two, was just kept blowing down. And incredibly, my ginger grew really amazingly big. I couldn't believe it. So, so recently when I just got some new plants, I actually bought sand, and I put a bunch of half sand and half dirt, and I mixed it in there, and my plants are doing amazing.
Just with sand, and that's all
Just
you
from
need.
sand. Yeah, I didn't know that. I only knew that because of my roof was falling apart and
From
blowing
the
over.
from the 1980s, they started telling people, academia did, that you need uh, compost. You need
Yeah.
that to grow in, and you have to
Yes.
mix it into the
Yep.
soil.
Yep.
Actually, in the plants it doesn't kill, it makes them smaller. So Gary Matsuoka will get blueberries that are like twice as big as anybody else's blueberry. And some plants are so sensitive, like English lavender, will die if you put it in
Oh,
compost. Other ones, like tomato was bred to grow in steer manure. It can grow any place. And a lot of gardeners, to prove their soil, which is really compost, works, they grow tomatoes in it. Well, tomatoes will grow in anything. It's meant to grow
ah,
in compost or any kind of junk. But compost actually kills because it suffocates, it causes sewer gas. Like in nature, you don't have ground up wood and sawdust
no,
in the woods. In fact, when
right.
a tree falls over, it could last for 500 years to have a trunk lying there. Even
Yeah,
put a piece of wood in your swimming pool, and it won't rot for like a for maybe a decade or two or three or four. And meanwhile, you put sawdust in there, you're going to have a sore if you go in swimming. And so it's common sense, but academia doesn't work with common sense. And common sense is the cure for overthinking.
interesting. I want so I guess these compost people, or I don't know, fertilizer people, they're like the pharmaceutical people. They just advertise something so they can make money, right?
Exactly, exactly. And they kill plants, and so you have to keep buying it and buying it. And then they
Yeah,
blame you. They say you're overwatering. You cannot overwater anything. Look at avocado trees. They're the most susceptible to overwatering when you use compost. But yet you can take an avocado and grow it hydroponically. How
you
can they
can.
explain that?
That's true.
You put a big avocado seed in the water, it lasts
Yep.
forever. And
Yeah, you're right. That's true.
so
Wow.
and they never explain that. And again,
No.
it's common sense. It's not academia which will claim, oh no, you have to have compost. You have to have nutrients. The nutrients are provided above for the plant, but the root needs to breathe and the oxygen needs to breathe. That's why, just like a goldfish, if you don't change the water to give the goldfish oxygen, same with a plant. If you leave the water out in the sun, all the oxygen goes out of the water, and when you water your plants, they drown, just like a human, because they don't have water, they don't have oxygen, just like a goldfish doesn't. They have to breathe oxygen even if they're in water. The plant is no different, and that is not accounted for at all.
Wow. No. Yeah, that's interesting, Adam.
The most oxygen of all comes from rainwater because it comes out of the sky. The carbon dioxide comes out, the carbon dioxide and the oxygen. And so the plants do much better in rainwater.
That
But
is true.
also, but also, now actually watering more times actually helps. But here's Rube Goldberg thinking, how the dystopian cyberpunk tech bros think. Okay, if they have a satellite system and they can actually save 30% on their water bill by watering 18 times a day in tiny amounts while computing it by computer, they save 30%. But what they forget, to put up that satellite system and to operate it, it takes twice as much water to make the batteries, to drive the trucks back and forth to do all of this work. And so they're not thinking it through. They just give you part of it. They have a saying, statistics don't lie, but liars use statistics.
That's true. That is so true. Yep.
And a
Yep.
lot of this is common sense. It's not critical thinking. You just look at things there's a famous story about the truck can't get through the bridge because it's
Mm-hmm.
you've heard this one, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
They can't get through
Yep.
there, so the guy
Mm-hmm.
said, "Just let the air out of the tires
Yeah.
because they're
Actually,
going to take the bridge apart." It was
the
a
kid
kid,
says, yeah, the kid says, why don't you let the air out of the tires? Yes.
and that's what we
Yep.
need in our system. We need lots of
Mm-hmm.
kids to take over. Actually,
Yeah, because they're so innocent, innocent minded. They're not corrupt yet.
yes.
Uh,
In
that
fact, an adult is an adulterated child.
Yeah, true. That is so true. But wow, that is so interesting about the sand. That is so true. That is so true.
Sand is the best soil. Now,
Mm,
in Hawaii, you
mm.
have that black soil. That's
Yeah.
okay because that's ash. It's like it's carbon with all of the oxygen taken out of it. So that will
Oh.
grow just as well. If you have black soil from other ways, from compost, not good. But if you have
Mm.
charcoal in it, no problem. In fact,
Yeah.
some of the best
Yeah.
soils have like 2% charcoal. Makes it black, and it grows it plants great. Sand and a little charcoal.
That is true because I believe when there's a fire, that charcoal wood will actually, I don't know what's in it, the minerals, I guess, from the fire makes the plant grow better. So I know like in New Jersey and northeastern side, they would have controlled fires to prevent what typically happens in California, although it can happen. I think recently kind of a fire went out of control, but typically it doesn't. And that actually grows the forest better and thicker after they do that because of the fire minerals in the
It
wood.
does. And also, here's an interesting thing. You will have a monoforest in California, but in the jungle, you will have as many as 130 trees growing beside each other. And
Yeah.
that's the dead relative syndrome. When you
Mhm.
when when you have a fire, it sanitizes the ground, so one plant can grow and another one doesn't. Mm.
Interesting. Yeah, plants can communicate underground to each other and to its like when a big tree drops its seedlings down and they have maybe daughters or sons or whatever you want to call them, they're the seedlings, they can communicate through underground roots system.
They do. And aspen forest is actually one tree. Mhm.
What is that? What's aspen porous?
Aspen is just one tree. It's all connected. One
Oh.
tree that grows and spreads out sideways.
Oh,
And by the way, they not only use roots and fungus to communicate, they
fungus, that's
use
right.
both infrared radiation and they use salicylates as a transmission fluid. So that's why they couldn't figure out in Africa why all the antelope were dying and there was a drought. So the plants, the trees, usually let the antelope eat them because they weren't going to kill them. But there was so little food, the antelope were eating too much of the trees. So the trees sent out messages to each other to make a poison to poison all the antelopes. And all of the antelopes died. And they finally figured out it was the plants that killed them.
Yeah, it's intelligent how they communicate. I mean, there's no other way for them to protect themselves but to communicate like that with the roots. And I remember fungus, I saw that um, documentary on that. It's amazing.
One of the healthiest foods to eat is celery. But if you have a celery that is attacked by insects, it puts out a poison that can poison a human being when they eat that celery. In fact, at one time in the 80s, they used natural selection to increase that poison, figuring it would be keep the insects off it, and they killed a lot of people. It was called exercise induced anaphylaxis. You would eat one stick of celery, jump on a treadmill, and drop over dead. That's how fast it worked. And it
Oh
can
my,
still happen under certain circumstances, but they withdrew that plant and they put 39 more that were not GMO, they were naturally bred, and naturally bred can kill just as much as GMOs. They don't tell you that either.
that's true because they need to protect themselves, so that's what they do. Yeah, I get it.
They can't run away like we can.
Exactly.
Unless you're in the Lord of the Rings, where the trees are marching around.
Yeah, yeah. That's true. What about iodine? Is iodine bad for us?
Yes, for most people now. It actually is an essential element, but we get it through so many Uh, for instance, it's used to sanitize dairy, so you get it. And they also use it as food coloring. So you get so much, there's a increased thyroid cancer, including in Japan. Now, actually, in northern Japan, Hokkaido, it's increased because they don't eat as many, what would you call it, iodine blockers, goitrogens, such as Chinese cabbage and things like that. They eat a lot of that there that protects them from it. But yeah, you can get thyroid cancer from eating too much seaweed, even, and too much other foods. And in fact, we need a lot less. We shouldn't even be using iodized salt. I use a salt that has nothing, no additive, no nothing at all, and no prussic acid. You will find that in some of it, which is cyanide. They put cyanide in salt.
Why would they do that?
Yep, and even sea salt. Ray Pete warned about the uranium being in the Celtic sea salt, and now it's out on the internet. Everybody thought he was crazy, and now it's on Facebook even.
Wow. How did he know about that?
You know, he was a very good researcher. He researched. I don't follow all of his beliefs. And in fact, I think he made some mistakes, like any researcher. But he got a lot of hits too, and he saved my life. Of course, I had yellow fat disease. That story's been told before, over and over, and I still have it ongoing. I still easy bruise like on my hand here from washing a jar. I have to be careful because I'll bruise myself, but I don't have petechia and where I just spontaneously bruise without touching anything. I don't have edema. I don't have all of those things for 10 years now. And I had edema on and off for 10 years before because not understanding that tuna was killing me because I ate too much. You know, if someone's going to have a can of tuna once in a while, no problem. But when you eat it every day and when you're a fanatic about it, you get into trouble. And I was raised on cod liver oil. That didn't help either.
Is there a way to detox that out of your system? Because it seems like it may still be in your system or
It is. Unfortunately, lipofuscin, it creates lipofuscin, and lipofuscin only comes out when the cell comes out. So as your cells multiply and you get new cells, the faster you can do that without getting cancer, of course, then the more lipofuscin you can get out. Most people have about 40% lipofuscin in their cells when they get to be of like 80s, like I am. And they used to think, well, it was just like living in a crowded apartment or a house where you have all this stuff and you can still move around. But actually, the lipofuscin can bite you. It can infect other cells. They didn't know that till recently. So it's not good. It's basically contagious from one cell to another. And in fact, it's the secret of aging because you can take a fish or most animals and measure its lipofuscin and find out exactly how old it is to the week sometimes. And how you can do that is they eat a certain type of diet. They don't eat a variety of diet. Human beings can do keto, they can do vegan, and so it varies. That's why you have some people that seem to age very slowly, and other people are old when they're 50, limping around. And you have people uh, like Gypsy Boots and Jack LaLanne, uh, they don't seem to age the same because they have less lipofuscin. It's there are seven deadly sins of aging, according to Aubrey de Grey, and three, maybe even four, are involved with lipofuscin.
wow. What do you remember what those deadly sins are?
Yes, let's see. One, too many cells, cancer. Too little cells, your cachexia. And the other is lipofuscin in the mitochondria, lipofuscin outside of the cellular structure. And the other is glycation, which is supposed to be sugar damage, like on your windshield wipers, but it actually involves oil partly and distorted protein. And let's see, number seven. or was that 7? I'm lost count. Those are the main reasons we age, and of course, there's tangential things that contribute to it, but those are the major things. Aubrey de Grey, unfortunately, wants to use drugs to fix the problem, but he, of all people, correctly identified that that those were the causes of aging, and that supplements would not help whatsoever. Other aging people are more popular because they recommend supplements.
Right. So how would you detox and how do you stop the aging? How do you
Well,
stop?
it's not even detoxing because the
Mm,
body will detox itself if left on its own. So if you eat tree foods in the morning
mhm.
and you eat vine foods midday and you eat root foods at night, and associated that there's obviously some exceptions to the rule, your body will detox. Samuel Hahnemann, who came up with homeopathy, was against detoxing. A lot of people don't realize that allopathic medicine is detoxification medicine. He said, don't detox, clean, uh, correct the cell with a poison meeting another poison, but in exactly the same amount, and you will cure it. Now, that's called a thief to catch a thief, and it has validity. But sometimes a policeman to catch a thief is valid, but it's overdone because when you think about it, when people detox, instead of getting people well and building the body, it's about, oh, let's sweat it out, let's pee it out, let's poop it out, let's even bloodlet it out, let's blah blah, all these kind of that is what allopathic medicine is. If someone says I detox, but I'm against allopathic medicine, they don't understand what allopathic medicine is because it is detoxification medicine where you're going to clean things out of your lymph, clean things out of your blood, clean things out of your bladder. As soon as you're doing that, you're an allopath.
I see. So you think that we shouldn't do that? We should just let our bodies cure itself.
In some cases, we should, but usually, if you support the body so that it can detox, it does a much better job. Like they have these foot baths and everything, you're going to
Hmm.
detoxify yourself. Your skin is waterproof, so I don't know how that works exactly, despite ionic or whatever they call it. But your
Uh-huh.
kidneys, a bad kidney is 100 times better than any kind of foot bath or magnesium soak or whatever you're going to do. Our body is made to detox. And we want to mess it up by thinking, oh, let's see, magnesium detoxes, or this detoxes, or that detoxes. And basically, if the chemists don't know what they're doing, that modern medicine is based on mythology. Uh, it- there are no receptors. There are none of that. They made it all up, and they have these fancy charts. Looks like they know what they're doing. If they don't know what we're doing, how is the average person on Facebook or on the internet going to know? Because they just parrot what they see and don't really think about it.
Yeah,
In fact,
that is true.
here's a bulletin for people. They're all happy now because fluoridation is finally going to be taken out of the water supply. But why is it? Because they can kill you with fluoridation now through drugs. 20%, more than 20% of drugs have fluorine in them to increase their effectiveness, and it's growing. They want to put all drugs to be fluorinated. So now we're going to have fluorinated or mRNA drugs. How happy we're going to be. We're all going to be basically wiped out.
And what about these I guess this new drugs that's out, the Ozempic that
Uh,
people are taking, right?
really
For
bad.
for
And if
weight,
you,
well, they're taking it for weight loss, although it's for diabetic.
yes, and also if you read the New York Post, which I used to check the headlines just on an ongoing basis, amusingly, almost every other day they had Ozempic works at this for this also. If you put it all together, it's the everything drug. So I wonder why are they pushing it? Because it kills people. I hate to say it, but it's true. You know, even paranoids have enemies.
Hey, Ohana, I hope you're loving this conversation as much as I am. I just wanted to pause for a quick moment to ask for your support. If you're enjoying what you're hearing and feel like we've earned it, we'd be so grateful if you could leave us a rating or review. Your honest feedback really helps us grow and reach more people who love exploring these fascinating topics. And if you think this episode would resonate with someone you know, don't forget to share it with them. Mahalo nui loa for being part of our journey. Now, back to the show. Yeah, but everyone's taking it. If it's not Ozempic, it's Ozempic, the generic brand, Wegovy or whatever. They all do the same thing, right? I forget what it's called, the semi-gluten kind of drugs that they're taking
There
and
are
how.
so many side effects. AI is our greatest aid now because the tech bros made a big mistake. They made AI know everything. Well, that means what we know too. So
Mhm.
when you first question it, if you don't know
Mhm.
how to question AI, it will give you the standard answer. But if
Mm.
you ask it in peculiar ways, like I
Mm.
asked, are statins bad? Oh no, they're
Mhm.
good for you. They do this and that. Then I ask, what are the side effects of statins? And then they give you uh, everything from liver cancer to diabetes to what is it? The muscle deterioration, uh, seizures, on and on the list goes. So AI, they made a mistake with AI. If people know how to use it, but they're probably uh, thinking that people are getting degenerative, like in the 2006 movie Idiocracy. They probably think people won't think. If you use common sense, you can take AI and find out anything you want now and get behind. Like, say, I want to find out what are the toxic ingredients in the Snickers bar. I couldn't do that before AI. Now it will reveal all of that. If you ask the question right, it'll tell you anything you want to know about the deep state, even. They have made themselves totally vulnerable, and people don't realize that they're afraid of AI, and AI is our greatest weapon if we use it against the tech bros.
Wow. I have to try that with the elite, like you were saying. What kind of question did you ask?
Well, you ask different questions, like also different time of day, it'll give you a different answer.
Oh,
So
wow.
I ask, is so and so toxic? And it'll say no. Then I ask it, is it toxic when you eat food with it? Or is it toxic this way? Or you ask the same question an hour later, and it gives you a different answer.
That is crazy.
Yeah, I found I asked it a question once and it gave me an answer I couldn't get again because I think it got wise to what I was doing. So they also have a policing function in there, but you can get around that. You have to use AI like a prosecutor. You know how they trick question? They get a person yes or no, and then they can only answer one way. And believe me, I found everything I want there, even though it's against the narrative. You can find it. So before they could hide it, it used to take me a lot more to get behind their defenses. I had tricks already, but now it's simple. And in fact, uh, any books I write after this now will be done with AI too, because they're much
Ooh.
more eloquent than me. I'm going to forget how to write eventually, but I will find the correct answers that are mine that are out there. My ideas are out in AI too. I will find them, and they will phrase them better than me. I'll lose my ability to write, but I really regard myself as an information broker, not a writer. I want
Yeah.
to get the information out there to
Yeah.
help people at this point. Love all, serve all. That's something that Sai Baba goes with, and I agree with that.
Yeah, that's true because when I listen to other podcasts or read other books, and people may say something that I'm not familiar with, I will do my research as well. And AI, just like you said, sometimes it tells you no, that this drug doesn't do this, this is not that. But if you ask it in a different roundabout way, it will reveal it. It's like, well, you just told me that it didn't have it in it, but it does. But because maybe you say it in a different way. So I was listening to I won't say his name. I forget his name, but he talked about how a lot of these drugs have venoms in it.
They
And
do.
they do. I didn't know that. So, but if you just ask AI, does da 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 have venom in it? It'll say no. But if you say, what is the enzyme? Is that, and the enzyme is um, derived from the venom. It's like, well, it's the same thing, but it's being, it won't say it exactly, but it will go a roundabout way. And you know what? I also found out that the word virus actually meant virus is Latin, and the original meaning from it means poison or virus or venom. Sorry, venom or poison. That's what virus means, which
Yep.
is really weird.
Most viruses are helpful. Uh,
Yeah,
they
I
actually,
agree.
well, actually, the bulk of all viruses on the planet have no interest in us. They're
Mm,
totally separate from us. Then we have the good viruses that help us. And then, of course, there are the bad viruses. Now, with all this stuff going on, they want to deny viruses instead of a common cold. Viruses actually often help our immunity by helping us. But now they've made it like denying viruses exist. Now they even know there are giant viruses you can see with a regular microscope. You don't need the below the light microscope they have.
interesting. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, but in fact now, because they have uh, given antibiotics, which only kill bacteria, and that they're becoming immune to it, their next step is to take viruses and kill bacteria with viruses. And by the
Yes.
way, Emmanuel Rivisi explains if you look at the periodic table why a antibiotic will not kill a virus, because the fungus level that they're based on are on the fourth period of the periodic table. The fifth period is the bacteria, which is vulnerable directly under it, but they buffer the sixth level, which is where the viruses are. So if people would study the periodic table and learn it, you wouldn't need all these materia medicas and everything. You could explain how you can work with the body by simply memorizing the periodic table, which is a lot easier
Wow.
than these medical books and everything like that. The periodic table also proves that we were started life on mud on Earth, not in the ocean. We migrated to the ocean and came back as movable animals due to the sodium, and it's provable by the periodic table.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
They a lot of times they protect their career. Like, have you ever heard that a comet is an icy snowball?
Yes, I have.
There's no water in a comet. It's an asteroid. It's a dumbbell-shaped asteroid, and even though in somewhere back in 2008, the European Space Agency landed on an asteroid. It's a
Hmm.
rock with an electrical trailer. There is no water. You can land on it. But to correct their careers or to protect their careers, if you look at Wikipedia, it's an icy snowball. There's ice on it. There's water on it.
Right.
Lots of water. It's a total lie. So this is common, though. I use this as an example of lie after lie after lie. How can we trust the science? You have to
I
be insane to trust the science.
I don't know why they trying to deceive us. I don't understand that. Why?
Money. Usually it's involved with money. And sometimes I think they just perverse humor. They love to
Eh,
say, "I'm tricking the person." You know, one of the greatest protectors of yellow fat disease, and which causes Alzheimer's and all kinds of things, and omega-3, is Monsanto. They've known about yellow fat disease since the 60s. And also, did they use glyphosate on plants? No, they used it in boilers, so it's in all of our water too, and may still be there. No one has reported that they've stopped using it in home boilers and commercial boilers and all kinds of water plants and everything. Glyphosate.
they put glyphosate, and glyphosate is a what did you call it?
Originally, it was a boiler cleaner.
Oh,
Now, now it's supposedly well, it kills. It kills no matter, and they're big on it, and they still use it. And by the way, they blame glyphosate on Monsanto. They lost three. They had three patents on it. They lost them all. China provides most of the glyphosate to us now. Maybe we should put a tariff on the glyphosate.
yes,
China might get mad.
I know. Well, China kind of makes everything for us, our antibiotics, our medication, all kinds of stuff they do.
And most of our additives and our vitamins and minerals too. The
Yeah,
health food
that's true.
industry is 80%
Yeah.
there. And if you look at the companies, they're like paint and the paint and vitamin company and things like that. I mean, it really is humorous because I've gone and tracked a lot of those companies down.
What do you mean paint and vitamin company?
Yeah,
They're the same
they
company?
yeah, same company. They have paint or they'll have linoleum and nutrient company and things like that.
You're ki-
When I find some, I'll send you some of the names. It's a hoot.
Oh my gosh,
If it
that's
wasn't so bad for us.
yeah. That is crazy. Oh my gosh. I know they don't vitamin C. What did they use to make vitamin C in China? It's not it's not what you think it is. It's something different. I forget now what it is. The citric acid is something poisonous.
Yeah, well, the truth is you can build it out of anything. If you have carbon,
Oh,
if you have hydrogen, oxygen in the lab now, you can make it out of anything with a computer.
oh my
So,
gosh.
so this is one of the things that people don't realize. You can have a paint on your house that will
Hmm.
last for 1,000 years. You won't have to repaint your house. They know how to do this, but they hide it because it's going to put Sherman Paint out of business. It's going to put them out of business. They want you to repaint your house every few years, but they have a way. There are people called atom smiths who have found that they can change the electron field of, say, silicon. They can make silicone as big as a Volkswagen, as big as a basketball, or as big as a house, proportionally. And by doing that, you get different colors, different properties, different strengths, and can mimic other elements in the periodic table. So you don't need expensive things like gold. You can make gold a fake gold out of silica or out of carbon or out of whatever you want to. But they don't tell us that. They have many other secrets. Uh, there are a lot more that I can't even tell uh, because I'm not allowed to. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, the electronic field. Yeah, it's just a matter of manipulating that.
Yeah. So the entire field, the proton and the neutron, to protect themselves, made a field. And so the room they live in is the electron field. It's their universe. Now, in the periodic table of the elements, this increases upward like a Russian nesting doll. Once the electron field is safe, it needs something to live in. So it creates a molecule. It's now an atom and a molecule. So it lives in it. This is very similar to I'm a person and I need to feel protected. So I'm in a house, in a room that's protected. Now, my house needs protection. I have a yard. My yard needs protection. I have a community, a neighborhood. My neighborhood needs protection. I have a town. My town needs protection. I have a county. My county needs protection. I have a state. My state needs protection. I have a country, and so on. The body works in the same way, like a Russian nesting job, upward, from the bottom of the periodic table to the top. The country is at the top of the periodic table, the first period, and the individual is the seventh period of the periodic table.
Wow.
But do you think any doctor knows this?
No,
Nope.
of course not. Would that be different than the chakra? Because that's about the same amount of chakras. I guess you can have more, but
You know, the chakras work in several ways. They
mm,
work from the middle, from the bottom or the inside of us to the outside. They work up the spine and they start here uh, and go to the medulla oblongata. This is the ovum's chakra system, and this is the sperm. You notice how the spine is just a sperm. What they call kundalini is the sperm swimming. It wags its tail like a rattlesnake and or like a fish and swims. So we have different chakra systems, and there are some other interpretations too. Many of the chakra systems are overlapping. Like, say we're driving across the country. We have a geologist, a cartographer, a real estate salesman, and you see the different types of people going. They're going to have a different interpretation of what the chakra system are, what the geology is when they report. A lot of confusion happens out of that type of variety.
that is
Ultimately, all is one.
that is true. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Variety is for entertainment, though. The mind needs to
Yes.
be entertained, and actually, things are a lot more simple than that. But the more common sense we have, though, and what does common sense mean? It means not just using your vision, but using your touch, your taste, your smell, and your all of your five senses, and even your sixth sense, which is basically the accumulation of all of them together. When you have them all together, that's common sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
And how often do we do that? We just think with the brain,
Mm-hmm.
and the brain doesn't can't feel. Like the cornerstone technique doesn't depend on the brain. You hold and you feel. Now a child can feel. In fact, there was a doctor one time that taught biofeedback. Elmer Green. He taught biofeedback. And one time, a doctor phoned him up and said, "How come it's taken me uh, 8 months to learn how to use my brain to control my blood pressure when you can teach kids in a day or two? Easy. They're children, and you're a doctor."
That's
Because
true.
we have fixations that we can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
you take a child and you teach them, and they have they don't know it doesn't work. So actually, that's why Buckminster Fuller was for what did he call it? Basically, simplicity or even ignorance to a degree. Simplicity was his motto. But we use our brain in ways to make complicated Rube Goldberg machines. If you've ever seen some of those, it's like dominoes, and they make a basketball go through a hoop and then knocks a coffee.
Yes.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But that's what most of our science is. And if people would just sit back and think about it, actually not think about it, feel it, feel, does that make sense? Does that make common sense? And most of it doesn't when you really think about what they do.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Genetics
Um,
are a total scam.
it
It's
that
like a
is.
stage. Yeah, it's a stage. Now it registers. You can tell history. You can't tell destiny from it though.
That's
Destiny,
true.
it works both ways. And now they use mRNA and they say, well, it does work both ways when we're in control. Before, oh no, the 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 sacred law of genomics was it goes one way. And then when Barbara, whatever her name was, came out with jumping genes, oh no, her career is gone. But now they have regenerated her again because, oh yeah, yeah, we can control jumping genes. You can't, which is a lie. We
Yeah, I
can't.
mean, I guess I guess genes can work maybe with color of eyes, maybe a height, things like that, right?
You
But
can
not,
change that even. I've seen eyes change color overnight.
oh wow.
Yeah, see, we put those limitations on.
Hmm.
It reminds me of one of those walkabout books. I forget the author. She went to Australia and did a walkabout, and the witch doctor or whoever told her that you can change you can be sick instantly, and you can be well instantly. So her interpretation of it in the book was, well, that means you can start to be sick instantly and start to be well. He didn't say that. He said instantly. Time is not an illusion, but a delusion. Once we know how to use time, we can surpass those beliefs. I've had it happen to me. Now, I'm not in control of it because it's happened to me and I didn't even know how I did it. I'm attempting to figure out the times I've instantly got well of like a cold. Uh, One time I meditated for 10 minutes and my serious cold was completely gone, and another time, I read that if you deny you have a cold, it will go away.
Ooh.
So I'm at a Kinko's copying things as I often did, and a lady says, "Oh my God, you have an awful cold." I don't have a cold. And then they were afraid that I was a lunatic, so they kept their distance. Uh, and I kept telling people I don't. I'm not sick. I went to work at the health food store, and my boss says, "Oh my God, you have a serious cold." And I said, "I don't have a cold." And he burst out into laughter, belly laugh, and my cold went completely away when he laughed. Completely gone. So I've gotten rid of colds in varieties of ways. And can I duplicate it? It hasn't happened, but I can give you about five others, but I'll stop right there.
That's funny. You wrote a book about diamond body lifestyle. What is that?
Well, basically, it's that we sell ourselves short. We can live a lot longer than we can, and longer than my imagination even provides. For instance, if Sai Baba is really real, he was here as the Shirdi Sai Baba, he came back as a Satya Sai Baba, and he's coming back as Prema Sai. So who knows if this is true? And yet you look at his miracles, who can say it's not true or not? And after Donald Lay went on cosmic vacation, uh, he left traces of roses in various places around, even as much as 10 years later. He's promised to walk through the walls, but he hasn't done that yet. I'm still waiting.
Okay, so you have, is this like a series of books that you write?
Well, actually, that you know that one basically I did a series of journals, and they don't sell because there's no real subject. And now I have certain friends that want to know the whole science. I have one friend from Germany who buys everything, and he's become a good friend. And we finally met him at the farmers market here. And he's now seeing another friend of mine who lives in Idaho, has a farm there, and is kind of a prosperity guru tangentially. And if I any book I do from now on is going to be on a specific subject like mind hacking or whatever, because that didn't work out too well. But anyway, I do have a complete library that people can buy at a certain price and support our cause, because we need help right now with our moving and everything. And we've been very fortunate. The people, though, have been buying our books. At first, we'd be lucky if we sold three or four books a month, and now we're probably selling at least a book or two a day and getting
Great.
donations, which is really
Oh,
nice. Yeah, and then we
that's
have the. I haven't mentioned for a while. We have SunSync Nutrition too, which is a $99 membership where the solar is explained. I have 2,000 blogs. We have a color recycling chart where you recycle your brain through black and etc. Oh, here, thank you. Wait, oh, and then solar timing, of course. This is where we sell the books. So Anyway, people, we have customers now. We have people from Facebook has helped a lot. Instagram has helped a lot, and where X has helped too. So we get the word out, and we encourage people to spread the word. And your show has helped a lot too. So we thank you
Yay.
very much.
Yay. Yeah. I know there's a lot of people that love you. They really do. They enjoy whatever topic you have to say. Yeah,
Yeah, well,
it's
I have
appreciated.
a lot to mouth off about. So
Yeah, you had mentioned yesterday that you have a lot to say. Did you say everything you wanted to say?
no.
Because we went off the tangent on other things. I didn't even ask you what did you want to say.
I forgot what we were going to talk about this time of night.
It always happens.
A lot has happened. Our think tank, what really is about feelings and things like that, and simple ideas. By the way, in Puja Party, where Satguru, where Sai Baba had his 2 million people show up for a birthday party. What they did is plant trees, and now instead of a hot desert, it's actually a temperate zone.
Mm.
That can be done in California. I don't know how Elon Musk thinks he's going to terraform Mars when he can't even terraform California, because California can be terraformed. I've written, it's actually in one of my books called Trees, where countries before knew that when the water stopped flowing, when the rivers dried up, if they planted trees, all the water came back. It happened in the desert in Pucha Party, and it can happen here in California. Why we have our droughts is because they cut down the trees. And the trees, when you cut down the trees, it makes dry trees so that you have desert, and now you have the terrible fires we have that we didn't have before. And so we can actually terraform California. That is another think tank convivial, which means you're in control, that anyone can do. We can put our water outside and let the water evaporate. If everybody in Montecito, for instance, just simply put tubs of water outside, there'd be more water in the air. But plants particularly evaporate water.
Mhm.
And if you leave leaves on the ground, it makes moisture. Like if a farmer leaves leaves on the ground, he only has to water about 1/10 of the time he normally does. When they take those leaves away and cart them away, they actually need more water, and they take the nutrients away from the plants too. Many farmers are wising up now. Don't take the nutrients away. Like they'll notice the forest right next to their farm never needs water, and it's always wet and damp in there. And now they leave the leaves on their own crops and they have no problem. On top, though, not in the soil, but on top is fine as much as 5 feet deep in avocado orchards, 5 feet deep of just leaves. Just leave it there.
Wow, that's funny you said that. I forget his name now, but he is or was, I think he's still alive, a farmer from Japan, and he has big apples, big ringo. Ringo is apple, Japanese apples. I forget the name of the apple now. Thinks it starts with an M. But anyway, um, he went through a lot of process too, like figuring out how to make my apples big and sweet. And so he did many things like um, poison, right? Putting the fertilizer and spraying poison to stop all the bugs infestating the tree, and that didn't help the apple. But he did all kinds of stuff. But what really helped was to leave the weeds in its place. Don't pull the weeds, just let the weeds grow around the tree, and he would speak to the tree and talk to the tree, and water it. And I think that's pretty much all he did. And the apples are amazingly beautiful. It tastes delicious. I never had it. They're very expensive, so I can't order it. But they're big, they're juicy, and they're sweet. And he does nothing. He just lets it, nature takes its place because nature knows what it's doing. So he doesn't pull the weeds, he doesn't poison it, he just lets it grow. And that's
I
that's a secret.
I know who you're talking about.
Do you?
I don't know his name either. Yeah, in fact,
Uh,
even Gary Matsuoka
yeah, I'm sure because he's Japanese.
mention,
Yes.
knows about him and has
Yes.
mentioned him in one of his classes.
Yes.
Yeah, he's famous and he really does know what he's doing. Hmm.
Yes. And I
Most
but
farmers don't. Well, actually, farmers, uh, ironically, the ones who have huge acres know more. They don't put fertilizer,
mm,
mix their food. They grow them in sand and put a layer on top, but they don't tell people. But what they want to do, the commercial farmer, they want to thrive. They don't want the local farmer or the personal person, people growing their food. They want them to think it's complicated. So conspiracy or not, that's how it is. So the gardeners are the ones that spread this. The farmers got wise because they couldn't grow a crop. But
yep.
but meanwhile, the gardeners keep on having it. Oh, my tree died. Oh, you overwatered. Here, buy another tree. Oh, it died again. I didn't water it this much. Well, that's okay. You must have done something wrong. Here's another tree and whatever, or plant or whatever. Now, in the East, it doesn't make that big a difference. The plant doesn't die because you have to grow your food by the time the snow comes or it's dead. So you just get a smaller plant. You don't get a dead plant. In California, where you can get three crops a year, then they die. So it's more important in California than back east. But still, even back east, you'll get bigger plants and more nutrients in them. Why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah, exactly. And I
Without
can't
fertilizer,
yeah, that's true. And I
except the
think
leaves, the plant. Now you
I
don't take you take the leaves of the plant. You can't if you take the roots of a dead relative and put it in, it will die. But the leaves coming down, that's its food. So it takes
yeah.
it right back into the system. Usually leaves from a tree will be reabsorbed into the tree within about 3 months.
Oh wow. That's interesting. Now, I didn't read the book. My mom read the book because it's in Japanese. I don't think it's been translated to English yet. So that Japanese farmer, he was trying to commit suicide one day because he was fed up with all this. But I think I don't remember the story. I know my mom told me it a while back, and I can't remember if something broke, so he didn't commit suicide. But everything in his life was a failure, a failure, failure. You know, everything he did, he failed at. So he wanted to do this apple tree, and I believe he had a visitation from aliens or something. My mom said that, like I said, I didn't read the story. Um, but in this story, he said that he had I guess there was other people that was there with him when they were doing whatever what the aliens do to you. Um and he said something about that he remembered a lady that like an American lady or an Australian lady, blonde hair, blue eyes, and he was watching a show one day and he had saw the lady that he thought that he was on this spaceship with her or something like that. And she said that she was abducted and she was up there with an Asian man. He was like, that was me. But something to do with that. And I don't know if they were the ones who kind of told him the secret of letting it just be grow and be natural, something like that. I know I'm terrible at the story because I don't remember the story. I didn't read the book. My mom read the book.
There are
Yeah.
cases like that. There was someone down in Palm Springs at, I think it was called Big Rock, where all the flying saucers were supposed to land.
Oh, wow.
He went down, and Howard Hughes wanted them to build an airport. He claims he was contacted by aliens, and he built a center that I visited. It's the most amazing place because you can get in circles and have your voice amplified. And if you're not
Oh,
in the
neat.
circle, it's not amplified. So if you were in my circle, you would hear me like on a microphone. But if I stepped out of the circle, you wouldn't hear me and all the circles in between. And yet it wouldn't record on a cassette tape. The voice quality and that would not work. a very extraordinary place. Now they've new aged it and ruined it, and so I don't think you can have the access that we did at that time. We got in for $5 a person, six of us, including Swami Nitty Gritty. So, but there were cases he supposedly was got learned how to build the Integratron. That's the name of it, the Integratron. You can look it up. And he got instructions from aliens how to build it. So who knows? I used to pray for aliens to take me away when I was in the fifth and sixth grade, particularly. They never did. And the most I've seen, one time I was driving back to Texas, and I'm in New Mexico, and I see a huge green light beaming out of the sky. Now, if it was a searchlight, it would have to be it would have to be about 200 feet across. I don't know of any searchlights up in the sky or in satellites could be 200 feet across. The green light stayed there. Well, I drove about 20 miles and then I went behind a hill, of course, and lost track of it. But to this day, I can't explain how a giant green light could shine out of the sky. That is my only flying saucer experience.
I saw something strange here. Probably about, I think it was 2021 or 22, I think. But it was a red, it was like an orange and blue-ish light that kind of swirled around and it kind of made it look purpley greenish. And it was like like an energy ball over the water.
Hmm.
I know, and it was very strange. I was like, "Whoa, what is that?" I thought it was a helicopter crashing. I thought it was a helicopter
Hmm.
coming down because we do have a lot of helicopters going back and forth. But it just stood there for a bit. And in fact, it lit up the whole kitchen area in my house. That's
Wow.
why I ran to the lanai area at the glass door to see what is this glowing light coming in the house. And I ran out there and I looked and I saw this ball of energy like ball just kind of twisting around. And I was like, oh my God. And before you know it, it was gone in just a blink of an eye. And about 20 minutes later, I smell ion in
Hmm.
the air, which was really weird. I can't explain what it was, or what I saw. Yeah, but it was interesting nonetheless.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
it could be some kind of alien presence, or it could be a technological thing. And also,
Yeah.
have
Yep.
you heard of St. Elmo's fire?
Yeah. What is that? I have, but what is that?
It's like a ball of lightning that a
Ah.
person called John Nordberg has made an entire new theory of the universe and how to use unified field to make free energy.
Hmm.
Uh, he he's seems to have given up. I was a big fan of him. I heard him on radio a couple times go against physicists and knew more. He said you can prove that the regular laws of magnetics are false by going to Radio Shack for $20 worth of equipment and prove that magnetism does not work the way it is. But anyway, St. Elmo's fire. Uh, when I was in the phone company, we don't have that kind of phenomena out here west, but we heard in the Midwest uh, there would be a ball of light about 3 feet across come down the phone line. And the phone man would be on the phone line in a bucket and would be so afraid he would jump out and break his leg. And yet it wouldn't really hurt the person, but but they would light up. St. Elmo's fire was named by people on ships because sailing ships, particularly, had it on the mast, and airplanes often attracted too. But according to John Nordberg, it explains how the universe works and how we can get energy, basically 0 point energy, out of the universe.
The
Now
electric
he's apparently
universe.
discouraged because
Oh.
he's in Wisconsin. He just goes hunting and forgets it all, which is very disappointed.
Oh.
They do that to people like that. Have you heard of John Hutchinson, the Hutchinson
No.
effect? He
No.
has an anti-gravity machine, and I met him when he was on the lam from the Canadian government. In fact, I actually did a session with him, and he took solar nutrition workshops for the weekend. But he invented an anti gravity machine, and the government said that's nonsense. But then Germany and Japan were bidding to buy the anti gravity machine. So they locked up his lab and put a warrant on his arrest. And when I met John, he was hiding out in an Indian reservation in Bellingham, Washington. So, see how they discourage people who are inventors?
Yeah.
John Hutchinson, now he just works with cheap material. So you'll see it looks kind of like, well, he raises bowling balls in the air and things like that. But if he was paid money by Standard Science, he could change our science, but they won't let him do that. That's also why
Wow.
John Nordberg is in hiding, because he knows more than the physicists do, and I've heard him go against standard physicists and just uh, destroy them verbally in what he knows.
St. Elmo's fire. That's that guy.
Yep.
So is
In fact,
this
I think I'll send you Nordberg's old website. He also has a YouTube series, but the guy is a nerd. He needs an
that's
agent. Oh, the show is so bad. His introduction on I think he has about 30 YouTube videos, is 2 minutes long. The introduction with a
Wow.
clock spinning and big deal, and then he's in his tie, and he's not a good speaker. His
Oh,
ideas are fabulous for anyone who has the
yeah.
patience to skip through the first 2 minutes and listen to the entire videos. You'll learn a lot from John Nordberg.
Wow. Is he like a what do you call them? He believes in electric universe kind of theory? Is that what it is?
Similar.
Hmm.
I I think that's partially true. In fact, there is a guy out called Diamond. Uh, His first name is David Diamond. His last name, I forget it. He has two sites, Oppenheimer Ranch Project, where he gives amazing cosmic weather for the day, daily. We watch it daily. And then on Saturdays, he has Magnetic Reversal News, where he goes into electric universe ideas. Some of
Really?
it, yeah, and it's very fascinating. Now, some of it I don't know about. They seem a little too far, uh, going about Venus,
Oh, yes.
yeah, all of this kind of things.
Yeah, yeah.
But a lot of it's true, and I know personally that NASA lies about a lot of things. I
Oh,
really
yeah.
believe we've been to the moon, but one time when they were talking about how they could go to Mars because of polynuclear hydrocarbons, which are on Mars, and they found it in an asteroid from Mars, a meteorite from Mars. And I got up, we were invited to ask questions. So one person, one professor, there was an astronaut and three professors, they would answer your question. So I said, but polynuclear hydrocarbons are in space. They're floating around the universe. Four of them attacked me. And it was really surprised. They, why are they attacking me? I mean, they stood up and they took turns ranting about that I was absolutely false information. And so I went to the library at the University of Texas at Houston and looked through the textbooks. There it was. I've seen it in all the science magazines. Why would they hide it? Then I found out that Clinton was attempting to get money to go to Mars, and they had to have an excuse to get the money. So it was all fake because polynuclear hydrocarbons are floating around in space. Anyway, that's how I know that NASA, Swami Nitty was an advisor to NASA. Actually, he told
Really?
them how what to eat and things like that. Yeah, he was through the
Wow.
Tidwells, who were a family that lived in NASA Bay, in right by Johnson Space Center. Her sister knew a lot about. Was the nutritionist for NASA, and the sister Betty Tidwell told her that. the food to eat for outer space was peanuts, according to Swami Nitty Gritty, and her exact thing was bull, bull crap, basically. She said over the phone. But then they found out he was right. So then they made him an advisor, a nutritional advisor to NASA,
Wow.
and he could go and have security clearance to any of the other places, including Space Camp and where the heck was it, Georgia or someplace like that. Um, and he went and saw the demonstration where they breathe liquid. You remember the
Ooh,
movie The Abyss where they breathe liquid, and at first
okay.
they're choking,
Uh-huh, yeah, yeah.
and so a friend of mine accompanied Swami Nitty Gritty. His name was Jonathan Doon, and they had this showed how it was like birth. You breathe liquid when you're in the womb, and
Yeah.
then you learn. And at first, when the astronaut was getting the liquid in his lung, he thought he was drowning, and then he adjusts, and then it's just as bad to switch to oxygen back there. So he was for that demonstration for one, and advised them. So a
That's
Swami
so cool.
actually ran part of the space program.
That's pretty cool. That was back in the 60s or so when he did that?
That would have been, no, the 80s, I believe it was.
Oh,
Yeah, it
wow.
wa during the, let's see, I believe it was the 80s.
Okay. Okay. When the Challenger blew up, like during that time.
Around that time, yeah, that was a shame. Now,
Yeah.
Swami Nitty-Gritty said that was a shunt for worse things that were gonna happen. There's some weird, psychic things that happen that are interconnected that prevent wars and things like that,
Mm.
which, I don't understand, but,
Yeah.
spiritual teachers see levels on levels on levels
Mm-hmm.
that we are not accustomed to see
True.
until we break through that. We have
Mm.
events where you get bumped on the head and suddenly you're Peter Hercules. You fall off a ladder and suddenly you know things that you didn't know before. Accidents
Yeah.
are often involved in psychic
Yeah.
ability.
Yeah.
Uh,
Lightning bolts too. I heard about those too.
Lightning bolts too.
Yeah.
It
Wow.
changes you. I know a couple people. I know one person that survived a lightning strike in his house. He was sitting between his siblings, and through it hit him. But you know what? He got the ability. He can hold an electric circuit and pass it through his body. He can hold wires, 110 circuit, which usually
Ugh.
kills people, and
Yeah.
not even phase him. Me, a
Ugh.
static electricity bugs me.
Yeah, exactly. But what made him decide, let me go hold a live wire?
I'm not sure, but I hung out with him at my co-author of Yes, No, Maybe Chronobiotic Nutrition. He was a good friend of
Wow.
uh, Von Harding, Marcella Von Harding, and I think he was doing her computer work, if I'm not
Mm.
mistaken. But anyway, really nice guy, and
Wow.
really had some interesting stories.
Wow. Is there anything else you wanted to mention? I don't want to over
Buy our books.
over
Buy our
yes,
books.
overshow. Yes.
Support us.
Yes, support you. Absolutely. Absolutely. I am interested in the $100 one, the $99 that you,
Yeah.
that's what I want to do.
Yeah,
So,
that's it.
yeah.
And how that came about,
Mm-hmm.
I was on when Patrick Timpone was still alive, I was on his show, and I mentioned that we need a internet guru to uh, to help us set
Mm-hmm.
up some kind of a site. And so we got a call on the show from a man called Guru Angisetti. He said, "My name is Guru, and I'm an internet guy." And believe
Uh,
me, this guy could go against Facebook and stuff like that. He's doing quite well these days,
nice.
and he set up our site. So
Oh,
we've had it in operation since maybe 2014, 2015, something like
wow.
that. I've written 2,000 blogs on it. We have a color recycling chart. We have all the herbs on time and things like that. and things I forget even that we have on it. So Palisades Park of the Mind. There are a lot of things on it, and Guru helped check that out. Lately, he's been busy doing other things, so
Mm,
we communicate with him when if there's a problem. Sometimes people have trouble with their passwords or forget it, and we contact him. Great guy, though. Great guy doing other projects. A meditator, flies back and forth between India and here, and his base is in Appleton, Wisconsin, actually. So he's up there in Houdini land. That's where Houdini was born.
oh, wow, that's awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming on again and sharing your deep knowledge and your insights. Every time we talk, when we have these conversations, you really challenge the norm. You open up new doors of understanding, and you definitely push us to question what we think we know. So
Yeah.
your work is definitely invaluable. I truly appreciate the time and wisdom and energy that you bring to the show. Again, before we go, though, where can people find you, your work, and where can they follow you and learn more? Solar.
SolarTiming.com. Actually, and I have a page on Facebook under my name, and uh, Vibrant Gal helps me a lot with that because she's something goes wrong here. Now we have to have telephone calls to get back on whenever we get knocked off. She is an internet guru. She really knows her stuff. I wouldn't be able to operate without her.
Yeah,
But anyway,
that's true.
Facebook, I pretty well keep people up on what's going on at this point. I would say Instagram and X too, and your show. So we
That's
advise people to
awesome.
watch all the back shows too
Yeah,
because we've had some really good ones.
absolutely. I know. Our conversations are invaluable, that's for sure. And I'm looking forward to our next conversation, Adam. So thank you again.
Well, think of a subject and maybe we
I
can stick
know.
to it.
And that brings us to an end of another episode. I want to give a huge thank you to my special guest and friend, Adam Bergstrom, for sharing his deep knowledge and insights with us today. His research continues to challenge the way we think about health, energy, and how our bodies truly function. If you want to dive deep into his work, be sure to check out solartiming.com. And of course, I want to thank you, my amazing listeners, for tuning in, sharing, and being part of this growing community. We just hit 5,400 followers, and I couldn't be more grateful for your support. Now, before you go, please take a moment to follow, subscribe, and leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast. These reviews and ratings are what help keeps this show going, bringing on incredible guests, and makes sure more people find these important conversations. It's quick, it's free, and it truly makes a difference. If you'd like to support the show directly, check out sensiblehippie.com and visit the store, or you can always buy me a coffee. All right, that's all for us today. Until the next time, stay curious, stay awake, and stay sensible. Bye.